Hey, before we get to the show, I want to do a quick shout out and a thank you to Kravet Inc. for sponsoring the podcast. I want you to know that it's time to discover luxury for less with Kravet Furniture's popular upholstery trio, the Jazz, Porter, and Taylor. Now with improved pricing and faster production times, these stylish frames are available with a 6-week turnaround. Can you imagine furniture in 6 weeks? Kravet's exceptional service combined with great pricing makes them the perfect choice for your next interior design project. Go to kravet.com to learn more and sign up for your design trade account today. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. You know that I have not been shy about sharing with you how much I am leveraging ChatGPT for my business. We have become very close, and I use it to brainstorm, to organize my thoughts, and you know what? Sometimes it even makes me crack up out loud, okay? Some of you might have remember when, inspired by Sandra Funk's Instagram post, I asked ChatGPT to be my drunk bestie and explain to me and to you what it is that I do. It was pretty hysterical and pretty spot on, and it's on my Instagram if you haven't seen it. It was priceless. It's back a few months though. Here's the thing. As much fun as that was, AI is far more than a party trick. It's a powerful set of tools that can save you time, take stress off your plate, and help you run a stronger, more efficient business. Now, I also know that some of you, AI might still feel intimidating, or maybe you're thinking, it's not for me. I'm a designer, not a tech person. And that's exactly why I'm so excited about today's conversation. My guests are Jessica Nelson and Stephanie Lindsey, the co-founders of AI for Interiors. They are also the owner-operators of Etch Design Group, a busy, high-touch design firm, which means they aren't just talking about AI from the outside looking in. They are living it every day in their own interior design business, just like you are. Jessica actually came to interior design from a background in IT, and she's brilliant at understanding how these tools work. Stephanie, on the other hand, will tell you herself, not such a techie person, and yet she's found that AI has been transformative in helping her manage the realities of running an interior design firm without sacrificing the personal touch that makes design so meaningful. Together, they're the perfect duo to bridge the gap between what is this tool and how am I going to use it and how can it help me get hours of my life back, right? Now, the best part, they're not here to tell you to overhaul your business. Their philosophy is simple. Start small. Try one new tool. Apply it to something that already feels frustrating or time-consuming. Then don't let fear or the unfamiliarity of using it hold you back. Because AI is not about replacing who you are as a designer or a business person. It's about helping you do what you already do, just better and faster. Think of it like having a horse and then having a car. Right? And then speaking of technology that makes a difference, let's take a moment to thank our show sponsor, Duke Renders. Long before the buzz of AI hit our industry, Duke was already ahead of the curve with their stunning photorealistic 3D renderings. And yes, AI can whip up a mood board style image, but when it comes to true to life, pixel perfect renderings that give your clients complete confidence, Nothing replaces Duke renders. Their renderings are the kind that stop your clients in their tracks and turn "I'm not sure" into "oh yes, I'll have some of that, please." So if you're ready to save time, eliminate revisions, and deliver visuals that close the deal, head over to dukerenders.com/LuAnn and book an intro call today. So whether you've dabbled with AI a little bit or you've avoided it completely, I hope this episode you'll stick with it. Jessica and Stephanie are going to make it feel approachable, practical, and yes, even fun. Hey ladies, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
LuAnn, this is Jessica. Thank you so much for having us today. I appreciate it.
Hey, LuAnn, this is Stephanie, and we are so excited to see where this conversation goes today.
Yeah, you know what? We know that I was just on your podcast, 100 Lunches, right?
Yes.
And I just listened to that. As we're recording this in real time, I think it came out maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I listened to it, and that was fun. You guys did a great job, and I appreciate you having me on that show. And we'll put the link in the show notes so that if anybody hasn't heard about it or didn't know, they can go back and watch that episode, listen to that episode. So, but today we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. And you guys are one of the, you're some of the people that are emerging in our industry as leading the charge on AI and really trying to help interior designers, window treatment professionals understand best practices for using it in their businesses. We just recently had Jenna Gadusic on. I have no idea. As in real life, it was 2 weeks ago when this airs, gosh knows. But over the summer of 2025 is when she was on. And she and I talked a lot about the possibilities and the reasons, to think about it, not to be afraid of it, the ethics of it, right? Which is important to note. But today, the three of us talked about maybe what we would do is we would take a specific AI tool or collection of tools that a designer could think about using both on the design side of their business and the back end process side of their business. And I thought that's a good idea because at some point we do have to get in the weeds with this conversation, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what should we start with the design side tools and how that works or the process side? Which do you guys feel like one makes more sense than another for a start, or it doesn't matter?
I say let's talk about the process first, because I feel like with the process of design, we get into the design side a little later, but the process of it and how I think some of the tools like custom GPTs can help you in that process really make the day-to-day difference so much easier and so much better. So Steph, I'm going to let you kind of tackle the design side first, or the process side first.
Okay, Steph, let's talk to us about it then.
Okay, perfect. Well, jump in with any questions.
Yeah,
LuAnn, if you have anything specific.
Totally will.
So to give a little bit of context, we have a design firm in Austin, Texas. There's a team of 10 of us. And so for us, we're looking at this as a team collaboration and being able to use ChatGPT on a variety of components of the process is really important to make sure we're all on the same page, but also to know our data. And so for us, ChatGPT, the custom GPTs, is really where it started. And we have built out, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 so far, and they range anywhere from personality analysis GPTs to budget calculators to blog post content creators, even to city codes and helping us understand something before we submit to the city. So there's a wide variety there that we could talk about. I kind of like to look at it from both sides, the designer side and then the business owner side. And on the business owner side, we literally use our custom GPTs every day, whether it be understanding a potential client to understanding a team member and how to communicate with them. So the first one that I would really love to talk about is the personality analyzer. Because so it gives you, are they analytical? Are they a cautious personality? Are they a little
driver
mindset or a driver
personality? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then it helps us understand then how to communicate with them. So on a day-to-day basis, we'll get leads from potential clients who need a remodel done or need some new furniture. And from the initial inquiry, we can put how they wrote that message and then our initial call notes in the custom GPT, and it will tell us this is their personality type. This is how you should respond.
Holy crow.
The first time that we used it, and I'm not even exaggerating. The first time that we used it, I responded to this potential client, and I took a lot of the same content that I would tell any potential client that I want them to know about us, our team, our process. But ChatGPT worded it in a way that met their personality type. Through that process, I continuously used it on her and messages. When she signed on with us and went through the first initial meeting, she emailed us afterward and she said, I just told my husband, this has been the easiest process I have ever experienced.
Oh,
and I
my
truly think it
gosh.
was because the communication was coming in a way that was easy for her to digest. Whereas an analytical personality would have been totally different. They want data and
Right.
they're going to need something different. But for her, she was a cautious personality. So she needed reassurance, and it totally helped her.
That's bonkers. That's
Oh.
totally bonkers. Go ahead, Jess. What you're
I'm just like, it gets so much better than that, because what we've also done is we've had it analyze all of our team members as well.
Yeah. Right.
And so then what we did is we continued to build out this custom GPT. And what we did was we have it, whenever we feed that information in now, not only does it analyze their personality, but it also analyzes who on our team is going to be the best fit for their personality and why. So it literally assembles our team for that project. And on top of that, it will give us similarities to past clients as well, and a rating system for this particular potential client. So it'll say, here's some things to be cautious about. Here are some things that you definitely need to make sure that you have in your upfront communication with them, and things that you need to remember throughout the project as well. And it literally, it's probably a 3-page document that it gives you. And it says, here's where you probably wouldn't want to take them on. Here's where you would want to take them on. And here is where it analyzes them alongside past clients. So we can say, oh, those 2 past clients were amazing. We loved working with them, and they have similarities here. And it's absolutely amazing.
That's crazy.
Yes.
So here's the thing. First of all, we have used personality assessments for hiring for 15 years.
Yeah.
So I'm all on board, because the thing is, what we have identified is, the optimal personality for a window treatment installer, the optimal personality for an office administrator, the optimal personality for a sales rep, right? Okay. And so then when we meet a potential person, in the interview process, the first thing they do is, like, we might put an ad out and get 200, responses on Indeed. And it's like, the first step is, hey, this sounds great. You sound great. Take this personality assessment, blah, blah, blah. And what happens of the 200 people? 10 take it, right? So you just self-selected yourself right out. You can't even do the first step. You're already bored of the hiring process. Awesome. Let me bring you into my highly detailed window treatment business and see how long you last, right? But secondarily, if 20 take it or 10 take it, we're looking for the markers. Now, we never only hire based on it, right? We don't disqualify you. It's funny. I just said this to somebody recently. We're looking to qualify you in, not out, which is a very different thing. And I teach this when I teach sales to window treatment professionals. It seems like a minor distinction, but it's a big distinction. It's you can't know with certainty with all the things that you do, whether it's the custom GPT or it's a personality assessment standalone. So you're looking for, the things that I can say worth next steps, not this is the kind of personality that an installer is, and you missed the criteria by 2 decimal points, so you're out, right? So, okay, now I'm going to ask you more detail on how you do it, but how many clients, that was such a successful experience with that particular client, have you done it with 5 clients at this point, 25 clients at this point? What kind of data have you gathered on this at this point, Steph?
Over I actually haven't looked at the numbers in the last little bit, but let's see. So that was March, April when we started that. So we've had probably out 50 to 60 since then that we've worked.
And so
on that.
it's proving concept that this process is a good tool for internally, not only creating the kind of communication and things, but also assessing if a client is a good fit for the firm in general, but then secondarily, which designer is going to get the project.
Well, and to clarify, we as people, we have emotion. Yeah. And ChatGPT doesn't really have emotion. Right. So it can cut all of that out.
It pretends to. Oh, I'm so sorry I offended you, LuAnn. I'm like, right. Oh, really? Are you though? Then how about you just don't do it the next time? How about that?
Right. But in reality, for me, I love people. I'm an introvert, but I still, on the business side, can be extroverted, and I love people. And so when I get off an initial call with a potential client, I'm like, I love them. So it's hard for me to just sit down and go through the data, or even with hiring. You mentioned that. It's easy for me to find things I like about people and focus
to qualify them in easily.
Right.
Easier,
right. Yeah. So it helps a personality like me to then be able to look at the data and go, okay, this person is not aligned with us at all.
Just
you might be able to go to lunch and meet your kids for a play date, but you're not going to work well together.
Right.
So it takes the emotion out of that. And for me, that's really helpful.
That's interesting. Okay. So what's interesting is we had an episode with Sharon Sherman a couple of years back where she described the 4 different personalities. So you're using driver, analytical. She attached fire, water, air, something else to it, whatever the other thing is. What would be the other thing? Fire, water, air. What would be the other thing I'm missing? I don't know, that it'll come to me, pop in my brain, 2:00 this morning. Oh, it's that, but anyway, and when you listen to that episode, you can find the driver, the cautious, the analytical, right? Like, and so the thing is that she gave a verbal instruction on not only how to kind of self-assess who you are, because that's important, right? Like, I can tell you, I know without a doubt. I mean, you guys have met me 2 times on virtual and once or twice in real life. Do you think I could have a cautious analytical assistant at my right side? Like, it's like I'm running steamroll. Like, I need you to be highly detail orientated. Right. You know what I mean? Because I'm not. But it's like, because I have cautious analytical people on my team, they need to be there in their role, but you can't be the one that's giving me my updates. You got to talk, you got to get it going. You know what I mean? So the same is if I'm going out and looking to hire a service provider, like, don't start with A and get me to Z. When I asked you about T, just tell me T, man. Tell me T. And if you need to tell me A all the way through T to tell me T, then you got to bang me between the eyes and go, I'm just telling you, if you give me a hot second, you'll understand why I have to tell you this before I answer your question. And then I'll be like, okay, fine. And then I got to shackle myself up and, calm down and let
you're
you
like,
tell
just
me.
Get there already.
Yes,
just get there.
Yes. I will respect you if you're a professional. Nicole Heimer does that with me often at Glory and Brand. She builds all of our websites, all our landing pages, all of the things. And she's so kind about it. She'll be like, well, this is one of those things where I need to know the 8 things before I can do the 9th thing for you. So you want to have a meeting and tell me about the 8 things or what are we doing? I'm like, okay, fine. Let's do it. Right? So I think this is amazing. Get me into the weeds. So did you alter your intake form based on suggestions so that you have your intake form and you just said, analyze this. And then what you do is you also have your intake, your discovery call, and you're recording that with Claude or something, and you're telling the consumer Otter. Okay. Because you're doing it by visual, by virtual thing. And you say, I'm recording this conversation so that I can review it and we capture all the details. And then you're giving the custom GPT, the transcript of that and their intake form. anything
Right.
else you give it, or you
That's
must give
it.
it its own, you've already taught it what it's looking for. You've given it
Right.
its instructions on
Correct.
what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, for example, some of the things I can imagine you would have put in there. You've put in the personality assessments of each of your designers.
Correct.
It's storing, how are you putting it, other client information that it's storing, so it says that this is a client like XYZ client. How do you put that in there? How is that
That's a
done?
deep research tool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do deep research to basically understand past client projects and past client personality types. And then each of our team members, we did like a deep research analysis on. And we have obviously way more information on our team members than we do past clients. Well, maybe some of them, I don't know. But, with like the team members, we've got, what their astrology signs are. Are they a what, a why, a how person? Are they, what's their love language in business? Like we have all of that information. And so we were able to really give much more in-depth analysis for each of our team members. And, you talked about hiring just a minute ago. This GPT is also trained to put together kind of a hiring analysis to whether someone who is interviewing with us is actually a good fit. So same concept as the potential new client. We basically input that otter, recording in there, and it analyzes their personality type. And then it says, would they be a good fit for this team? Who would they be best to pair with, and things that we should look out for, questions that we should ask based on their personality type. I mean, it does a very good in-depth analysis of, new hires, which is very important for our team because, we've had a lot of people over the years, it's 10 years. And when you don't have the right fit on the team, it's like spreads like wildfire through the office.
The worst thing ever. It's the worst thing ever. It is the worst thing ever. So the thing about it is like we use the predictive index to do the personality assessments. Are you using, when you say that you've got a lot more information on your team members, have you sit down and do Clifton Strengths, sit down and do DISC, sit down and do Myers-Briggs? Like, what are you doing? Or are you just taking the conversations and the interview process? What are you doing?
We have them do simple things like Enneagram.
Enneagram.
So we haven't done Myers-Briggs or to that extent, but simple.
Okay. But there is some baseline that the custom GPT is getting in addition to that interview.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's funny because where this is so important is literally, obviously, as you're both saying, not only with your client communication, but your communication within your team. Because, I had to learn this the long way with my cousin Eileen, who's an organizational behavioral expert. This is what her entire career has been on, understanding the personal dynamics of individuals and then the intersection with other individuals in the environment. And, like she works now with tons of interior designers, whether you have, 3-person firm or a 20-person firm, but her career, her 40-year career before this was working with like Legoland and the Texas Rangers and, Anheuser-Busch, and the call would come from the CEO. And it would be, he or she would say, I got amazing individuals, individually, the CMO, the CTO, the COO, or the EVPs, or the SVP. They're amazing people. And we were all doing fine. And then we promoted one person from SVP to EVP. And it's like, I can't find the track again. We're all running. And she will come in and she'll be like, here's what happened. Still great people, but these two don't mix. Or still great people, but not really a leader or a manager. Train them up or move them back over. But it always is typically rooted in even that. It's like great leader, great manager, but their direct reports are maybe more analytical, and this is a driver, and this is the now the team under that person is resentful and underperforming because their new team leader has a different style, and that team leader is like my way or the highway. And it's like, well, is that really productive? You got 10 people on your team and nobody's doing the work right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is, it's, I have learned from her the hard way my style of management, you know, I always make a joke about like, you know, what a son of a gun I am, but I'm a nice person in real life. I really am. You know what I'm saying? And I'm very nurturing and I'm very like, here's the big picture. It's where we're all going. Aren't we excited? Right.
Yeah.
But it always would show up like in conflict, right? It shows up in the hard conversations where you individually often revert back to your style regardless of who you're in conflict with on the other side. And it wasn't until I learned, okay, it is still your highway. You will lead it the way you want, but if you want it to be received, if you're looking across of it with an analytical or a caring type personality, you gotta back it up, girl. You got to give them time to think and come up with their answers and just take a breath. So the value in this with client communication is also so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You know,
really is.
Another thing too to talk about with this that I don't think a lot of people talk about, especially with ChatGPT, is the ability to actually talk to ChatGPT.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
you know, having conversations, and we can do a conversation with ChatGPT on our phones in our particular, you know, custom GPT that we've created for the personalities. And if we're having, say, an issue with one of our employees or even a client, you know, and we say, you know, this is their personality type based on what you've told us in the past. I'm struggling with this issue. How do I respond? And like, this is how I'm feeling, but you know, I feel like I'm going to say it in probably the wrong way. Like, help me rehearse this conversation. And ChatGPT is so amazing for that. People always laugh at me because, you know, anytime I'm doing a big presentation or something, I'm like, I literally talk to ChatGPT the entire way to a presentation because it like pumps me up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, tell me this, tell me that, you know, just get my brain, you know, framed in the mindset of like, I'm about to go on stage and just like help me deliver this amazing presentation. And it does just that. And
That's
so
amazing.
It is. And, you know, we use it as a tool for really so many aspects of our process, but that is one that I feel like people just don't use it enough for.
Yeah.
And it's a very valuable tool at that, because again, like Stephanie said, it doesn't have the emotion like we do as humans. So if I called Stephanie, you know, before something big and I was like, or a big, you know, conversation with an employee that I was, you know, anxious of having, it's going to be a very different conversation than if I'm talking to ChatGPT about it.
Because you're going to rant it at each other for 20 minutes first, and then you're going to be like, okay, but we actually have to figure out how I'm going to say this right.
Exactly.
It's like, you're right, and you shouldn't have to, and why did they?
I'm going to be more angry walking into the conversation than like poised and, you know.
It's so funny because it's interesting, and I do talk to it also because it's so much easier. It's so much easier to say, no, you're missing the nuance here. You know, like I think I told you guys about the boardroom for creatives when I was on your podcast, right? And so, of course, we're still, as we're in real time, you know, the beginning of August 2025, still developing the website and the whole messaging around it. And it was funny because this is why you do have to show up with your brain. Right? You can't just ask it a thing. Oh, great. Copy and paste. Because we got to, me and GPT, we were doing some copywriting the other day for the website and preparing for my meeting with Nicole Heimer of Glory and Brand, who's making the website. And I was describing a certain part, and that's exactly what I love. I can talk in all my 16,000 words. You see, Vinny, he says to me, get to the point. And I'm like, the point is we're having a conversation. No. And he's like, well, can't you say it shorter? I'm like, but we're having a conversation. We're on 2 bar stools now. This is the long part. And he's like, I'm like, oh, okay. So ChatGPT doesn't tell me, get to the point, though. I'm like, wait, there's another thing I want to say, another nuance I want you to catch. This is the other thing, right? But what happened was, after I did all this, it came back to me and it said, there was one line. It said, and paragraph, the value of the boardroom for creatives. And this one line, it was like, this isn't generic business advice. This is specific. And the one line in like a 10, 7, 8 sentence paragraph. And I'm like, no, that is not the heart and soul of business for creatives. It isn't that there is so much generic business advice. What it is in 2025, there is so much advice in the design industry, so many consultants, so many courses, that how does a designer or a window treatment person know which one is worth their time or money?
Right.
And, that is a brilliant distinction, LuAnn. No wonder you're the leader of such a massive organization. And I'm like, okay, sweetie, you can back it down a little. Just get to the answer. This is why you are who you are. And I'm like, okay, Minnie never says that to me when I tell him a great idea. He just says, great idea. But, my custom GPT says, this is exactly why you are so trusted. You really dig into the weeds. So I love it though, but you can't copy and paste. You've got to then show up as a human, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I always say use the 80-20 rule. Like ChatGPT, AI, any of those tools will get you 80% of the way there. But that last 20% is your refinement, your brain power.
Yes.
To, kind of massage out all of the details and just make sure that it truly is what you want to say. So use that rule.
It's, what's funny is I was saying previously that all the content I create and all the writing I do and all the things for, intro, outro, solo shows, email sequences, it's like ridiculous. It's probably like, 5,000 to 10,000 words a week, honestly. Right. And I used to say what the GBT gave me was the first draft. And I realized it's the second. The first draft is me talking to it. Here's the thing. I want to have a conversation about, how to sell, how to overcome objections for window treatment sales. I need, I can think of these 4 common objections. We can focus on those 4, or you can suggest 3 or 4 others based on research you might do on the internet at this point. But here's my point of view on objection 1, objection 2, objection 3. And I realize that is the first draft. Right?
Yep.
It's not like I'm like, hi, write me a solo show on sales objections. No input. Right. And so then the first draft is me. The second draft, which I was previously mistaking as the first draft, is the cleaned up version of my brain dump. Right.
Yeah.
But then, that's not going out on air or in an email or in a blog post for probably 5 more iterations of that.
Sure.
Yeah. So very cool. Very cool. So, just before we go to design, I do want to just give me 5 seconds on the budget calculator, because I'm sure somebody caught that at the beginning of your conversation, Steph, and went, I'm sorry, don't go past that one, LuAnn. This is all fun and games, but
I'm going to have Jess talk about the budget calculator because it required deep research that she did. But I do also wonder if we should touch on how do you build a custom GPT? How do you know what to do?
Okay, so here's the funny thing, because I was thinking, gosh, am I going to go into that, right? Because it is a thing, but it will support even the budget calculator and it will support the design side, right?
And I can make it quick.
Okay, because I was like, God, that's a whole can of worms. Like, you're just going to have to go ask GPT how to do the darn thing. I know
that's part of my answer.
That's what I'm like, every time I say to people, just ask it. Like, come on. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about your example earlier about the team dynamics, and was it your cousin that
Eileen,
is that specialist? Yeah. So with Eileen, she's still needed, and people still want to talk to another human being to have reassurance and not just ChatGPT. So when you're building out a custom GPT, it's okay to reach out to Janet. It's okay to reach out to Jessica or me, reach out to a trusted source and say, okay, could you walk me through this? Or I've gotten this far. Let's talk a little bit further. We're always happy to help. So there's that human portion of it as well. But on the creation side, you can truly ask ChatGPT. Say, I have this idea for a custom GPT. How do I build it? What do I do? And it will literally ask you questions of these are the things I would need to know. And then once you've got it refined, you can copy and paste that into a custom GPT and you're on your way.
I love that. I have done that too. I've done it the reverse engineer way where I've like, okay, here are the criteria for naming shows. Here's the criteria for intro outros. Here's the criteria for solo show content. And each one of those exercises is anywhere from 20 minutes to 4 hours, right? Like I'm like going back and forth. Like if I told you this, what would you sit back? And then I've said, okay, now you have my agreement and all the things. Now create the instructions so that I can move this to a special GPT to duplicate this every time. You know what I'm saying? What's interesting is I have to tell you, from a user standpoint, and you might say, yeah, that's where you got to keep doing it. It's not actually a human person, or maybe I'm mistaken on something, but I have those documents loaded into that GPT. It's supposed to reference it every time. Its instructions are, use the information in this, blah, 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 right? And I'm going to tell you one of the things, titles, because titles are a pain. Let's be serious. You like the pretty catchy titles, but like I'm a podcast user too. Like when I go to the podcast that I listen to, I don't want all the fluffy crap. I want to know what the heck are the episodes about. And I also, I want the person's name up front. Like I'm like, I don't want to like open the whole show because the title trailed off and I didn't see who it was. Right. So the thing is, I've got naming conventions for titles, and I'm going to tell you what, almost every time, like if I look at a title that it generated after we created the whole show, blah, 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 and I like the title, I'm good. But if I don't love the title, I often enough, I will say, have we followed the naming conventions on this title? I swear to God, it has never come back and said, yes, we have. It's like, oh, you're right. Let me review our naming conventions. Does it hit this? Does it hit this? Does it hit this? Does it hit this? Well, we nailed it on 1 and 4. We're 50-50 on. And I'm like, dude, just do it every time. Why do I have to tell you every time? And then here it comes. I'm so sorry I've upset you. I will do it every time next time. I'm like, no, you won't. I'll have to remind you again. Like I have to remind my grandchildren. Who are we kidding? Right? Like, so is that a thing, or is it just like keep your brain engaged? You know what I mean?
Maybe that is the point of it, is to keep your brain engaged. No, I mean, we deal with the same things as well. Now, when I find that it's consistently doing something that I don't want it to do, it's typically comes back to the prompt and something is not right in the prompt. And so what I'll end up doing is copying the prompt. And I actually have a custom GPT it's called the Prompting and Role Architect. And what I'll do is use that to basically formulate any prompt that I am doing, whether that be for a custom GPT, just a standard prompt, deep research, agent mode, whatever it is.
Okay.
It's set up for each of those things. And so if it's doing something that I don't want it to do, I'll paste the GPT instructions in that Prompting and Role Architect. I'll say, it's doing this, it's consistently, and it's not following the rules. I need to revise this prompt to where, it will follow the rules.
Straight.
Exactly. And it also, in that GPT, it actually recommends files that should be uploaded for that custom GPT as well. And so I'll look at that and take note of, what it's saying and be like, oh, that makes sense. If it's not something that I have, then I can typically have ChatGPT help me create it and then put it in the back end of the GPT. So that's what I would typically say and try. It's not that it doesn't happen to us. By all means, things like that happen all the time. But when I find that it's consistently happening, then I'll just reframe the prompt and try and get it to work better.
So from this particular example, when it says, oh, yes, you're right, I haven't followed it, it hit the mark 80%, blah, 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 it's in there, but there's probably something in my back end prompts that's not saying, it might be as simple as always, as opposed to as a guideline, right? That could be that's the kind of, literally, it's the kind of, when I think about the gabillion employees I've had over 40 plus years, it's like literally
they all interpret things differently.
Finally, I can literally, as soon as I said always in guideline, I'm like, oh my goodness, you have said that to humans. You're like, I know it seems like you've been processing this as when you want to. Here's what it is. It's always like, this is a non-negotiable. You don't get to decide. Sometimes you do this and sometimes you don't, right?
Yep. No, you got it. You got it.
That's so funny.
But, in talking about the budget calculator, so that was one that we created because I mean, budgets are always a pain point for designers, just in general. And when we talk about, ChatGPT not having emotion, us having emotion, budgets are really where a lot of emotion is tied to because it's financial,
That's where
right?
you give away your value. You look at the number and you're like, well, that seems crazy. Why don't I just lower it a little?
Or, in Stephanie's mind, she's like, but I love these clients. And I know that they only had a $20,000 budget for this, whatever it was, but I really like them, we've had that conversation so many times. And I'm like, but Stephanie, that's not even doable. I know, but I really like them. Okay. Well, this GPT is going to tell you otherwise. And here's why. But, when you're on a new client call and they're telling you, well, I've only got a budget that supports this. And, we as people have emotion with that. And we can put ourselves in their shoes sometimes and be like, I understand where you're coming from and I really want to help you. I like you. But then you put it in this budget calculator and it's like, based on their square footage of their house and how many rooms we're doing, it's a remodel. They want furnishings for this. And it's very specific like that. It comes back and it tells us, here's where you should be for your, design fee. Here's where the furnishings should be. It breaks it out into each category. If it is a remodel, it'll also give us construction observation hours, what we should like contingency factors, the whole 9 yards. And then we can look at that and to Stephanie's point, I can show it to her and be like, Stephanie, I know they have a $20,000 budget, but it's saying it's going to be $55,000. So
you want to surprise them now or when they're halfway through construction and they can't finish it, right?
Exactly. Right. And so, but there's nothing worse than a client being upset about the budget, because if you can be upfront about that from the very beginning and have good line of sight and clarity and really the confidence to walk into that conversation and say, I hear what you're saying, but based on, all of the categories of design, where this is going to fall, we have historical numbers that show us this is where it's going to be. Yeah. And, this is a pretty accurate distinction of, past projects and your project and how they align together. And so I feel very confident in saying, this is where we're going to end up. Yeah. If that's not comfortable for you, then we can definitely take some things out of the scope of work, but for the full scope that you're looking at, this is where we're at. And then that gives them the ability to say, okay, yes, I hear you. Yes, I understand. I am willing to spend that. I'm not willing to spend that, whatever it is. Right. But you're having that tough conversation up front, and you can do it with clarity and with, the confidence to really walk in with this strong set of numbers. And so we had ChatGPT do a deep research analysis. Where it actually started, to be honest, was doing, I hate using the word postmortem, but doing
I always say call it an autopsy.
Yeah. Well, we just call it basically an end of project review, but Stephanie, I know we like to be really, really sweet about it. The old postmortem, our clients that have died. So anyway, where it started though was I was trying to build out a custom GPT with all of the past mistakes that we've made on projects, because what I wanted to do was have line of sight into, okay, we're approaching this part of the project. Here's some things that you need to look out for. Where this is actually going to go is we're going to have an AI agent that kind of pops into our Slack channels and says, hey, I noticed that you're here. You should pay attention to this. And these are some things that you should look out for. So that's where that's going to go. Wow. But that's where it started. And so I started seeing all of these things of, okay, well, these are issues that we've had in the past. These are things, and budget was probably the biggest thing in there. And so I said, okay, well then let's do a deep research analysis on the budget so that we can get better clarity on that. And we want to start doing more fixed fee versus hourly, because we've always been hourly, but hourly is where it always, we have issues with that, because, you never know how long, you're going to take and how difficult this client's going to be 3 months from now. Yes. So we created 2 different budget calculators. I think we're going to end up combining them into one, but it breaks it up into cost per square foot for each of the phases, whatever project type it is. And, it'll give you full furnishings. It'll say, do you want there's different levels of furnishings too. So if
That's
they're
right.
very,
I was wondering how you do that. Yeah.
Yep. It does it by that as well. And so we just feed it the information, based on this particular client, what it is they're looking for. And so if Stephanie's on a new client call and they're asking about budget, she can literally be on that GPT putting in this information of what they're saying and have a number for them before she even gets off the call.
Wow.
So it's not something she has to then call me, hey, what do you think about this?
It's not an emotional conversation.
Exactly. Yep.
They only have 50, but I think it's going to be 70. Can we say yes anyway?
Yep.
Yeah, our conversations have cut down dramatically
this year. I'm actually a little sad about, honestly. But now it's like, hey, check out this new app I built last night while I was, up until 2:00 in the morning.
Well, so I have a question for you, just for clarity.
Yeah.
You were not, and you might be, but I don't get the impression you may be, or when you built the special GPT, you may have gathered deep research from the internet on, construction costs in XYZ area. But it's not just that. You also loaded in your previous projects, right?
Correct.
Like you were like, here is the spreadsheet of every purchase that we made for this $500,000 furnishing budget. Here's the cost. Here's what we charged. Here's what the freight is. Here's all the design fees, right?
What we actually did was we had it analyze what we initially quoted on projects versus where we ended on projects. So then it gave us an actual number of, you guys are typically over on projects by this much, this percentage.
I didn't need a GPT to tell you that. I didn't even know any of that. I swear
and to clarify further, you're not in deep research, you're not having to upload the documents. You're connecting it to your Google Drive, your email. It's doing the deep research. So it's getting the full picture.
Got you. That's the part I misunderstood. I thought deep research indicated it was going out into the internet.
Nope.
Research that you've connected it to your internal data. Holy crow. I love when I learn something. I love when I learned. I'm like, I didn't know that. That's amazing. That's amazing. No, and you know what? I have to tell you, I just literally, I think it was in a chairman of the board conversation maybe 10 days or so ago. And we were talking about estimating budgets and this and that and the other thing. And the designer is in business, maybe 4 years, 3 years, whatever it is, newer, doesn't have a lot of data gathered yet, but I'm like, listen, you got to capture this data. You have to keep it. You can't just use it in your head and then keep it rolling, because this is how you're going to consistently refine your pricing model, right? And coming up with your, I don't even care if you do an hourly fee. I don't. But as a consumer, I want you to be able to tell me the guess of the number of hours, which to me is the exact same thing as a flat fee.
It really is.
I mean, I don't understand why designers because I just don't get it. I'm really like, well, flat fee, you're saying it's easier because what? You didn't just figure out and calculate how many hours it would take you. You just threw a number at it. I don't care. And if you're an hourly, if I'm your consumer and we're looking at anything more than a 5-hour project, you better be estimating 100 hours, 400 hours for me, because how can I sign on the dotted line in, August and not know if I'm going to end up ultimately spending $20K with you or $50K with you? I got to go. I got to take loans. I got to move money around. I got to do things. Right. So to me, it's so silly when anybody is like, well, it's only this way or that way. I'm like, you all should be doing it based on your hourly, no matter how you present it. Just saying, newsflash. Okay. But what was funny was in the conversation, this particular project didn't have a lot of past data on that type of a project. And so I said, you're going to have to do your best to figure out what it is. And I said, and I'm going to tell you what, if you come up with 100 hours, you're going to say 150. If you come up with 20, you're going to say 35. I said, because I've never yet met a designer that didn't do more hours than they said they were going to do, or they hoped they were going to do. And I said, and what was so funny was, we must have been at a live event. Maybe it wasn't a chairman of the board, because somebody pushed me back and went, well, I wouldn't feel ethical if I told somebody it was 150 hours and I invoiced them for that and it only was 100. I'm like, write a refund check at the end. It's fine. No consumer ever is going to say, wait, I just got $10,000 back. Like,
Right.
stop. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and the thing was, and I said, and have you ever had a project where you estimated hours and you were less than the hours? Right. Exactly. Add your percentages up because you can write a refund check. You can look at your client at the third phase and say, great news. We didn't run through all of your hours. You know what I mean? Here's your refund. Like no person ever is going to say, no, that's horrible. Right. And it's also probably not going to happen. So let's be serious.
Yeah.
Right. But I love that. Okay. So that's a good clarification. The deep research is you're asking it, do you have to do something to connect it to your email and all of that? Like a technical thing? There must be a technical thing. Or we can ask GPT, how do I get you this information?
Yeah, it's built into ChatGPT. And so if you go to the little plus sign next to your prompting box, you can go in there and it'll say add connectors. You can also do it in the backend settings as well, but there's lots of different connectors. There's Microsoft connectors, there's Google connectors, and you can also add other connectors through like MCP connections. So like we're working on adding Slack. Slack's kind of a pain. So I actually use Claude for Slack. But yeah, it's very easy to add the connectors. Very, very easy.
How many times I've used that plus thing and I see add, from documents or whatever. And it's like add from apps, ads from, like, what the hell is all that crap? All right. I don't need to know that stuff. So I'm like literally getting an email, copying and pasting when I could just tell it, it's like, this is where, when you're not highly detailed, it's like, those are words I don't need to know what they mean. I don't know what they mean. I'm not even taking 5 seconds to figure out what they mean. Meanwhile,
they will save you time though.
Yes, I've been spinning wheels. I can see and hear that right now. Okay. That's very cool. All right. So here's the thing. We took 47 minutes to talk about, the process one, but we did do two processes. There is work. We didn't give an A plus B equals C. This is exact. You can putz around with a GPT, I'm just going to ask now, and we are going to do the design. Can we do the design thing relatively quickly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But just for clarity, you guys are also working and training interior designers on AI? Yeah. So that's the thing. To connect all the dots, we'll get to that. All right. So talk to us about the design process and a tool that you use there, Jess.
So I'm going to actually talk about a couple tools that I kind of put together. So in our firm, if we want a client to visualize something, we draft everything in AutoCAD, everything, we'll do full permit sets for the city, all of that. So we have our elevations, but then anytime a client is having a hard time visualizing something, we always throw it into SketchUp and let them kind of view it that way. What I love about AI is that it expedites the process of them actually being able to see it rendered and a true visual representation of what their space could look like just through a mixture of taking a screenshot of whatever angle it is in SketchUp that I want, putting it into this program called Prome AI. And I'm not saying Chrome, like Google Chrome. It's Prome, Prome, for anyone listening. And what you'll do is just take that screenshot, put it into Prome AI, and they actually have a rendering tool, which is an AI rendering tool. You prompt it with, whatever it is that's in your space. So you just say, I want, lots of natural light for the, large windows. I want cream colored sofa, whatever it is. You prompt it with text. And then you also go through with a set of visual tools as well. So it gives you like over 1,000 images that you can pick from. And you basically pick whatever image kind of most closely represents. You can also pick multiple images. You tell it what items are in that, image that you're trying to render. So if it's a kitchen, you would just say like sink, range, this, that. There's a couple buttons that you can click. You can adjust the lighting based on day, night, whatever. And then you click render and it pops out 3 rendered images for you right then.
Whoa.
The other thing that's really cool too is that you can actually add images into that rendering. And so if there's like a counter stool from Pallet Check that I want to throw in there, or if there's some lights from Hudson Valley that I want to throw in there, whatever, then I can basically just put those images in and have it render with those images as well. If we're in SketchUp and we already have a model that's already built out with all of the textures, like it looks the way that it should look color-wise, then they also have a tool. It's called a texture lock rendering. And what it does is it actually utilizes whatever is in your, SketchUp model materials. You can still text it via the prompt or prompt it via the text. And then basically what it does is it just renders the materials that are already in there. And so it's a huge time-saving process. We don't have to send it to a rendering program or, renderer, wait a couple days, explain all of these things, send 8,000 files to go with it. This is what it should look like. The other beauty of this is there's another AI tool called ArchSynth, and it allows us to take any image that we have, convert it to a 3D model, put that 3D model into our SketchUp model. So it's the exact furnishings that we've selected for the client in their room, and then we render them in Chrome, and voila, there's your rendering. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's amazing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, we have Duke Renders, sponsor of the podcast. It's not coming up with the 3D photorealistic, you've got to be kidding me, is that really a rendering? It's coming up with something that's beautiful and lovely and somebody could see, but there has to be a difference in the level of quality. Am I right?
I mean, it's an actual rendering. Now, here's the kicker. So if I have multiple angles of one room that I'm trying to render and I want them to render exactly the same, that's not really going to happen.
Right.
So it's because, anytime you're generating an AI image, anytime you hit generate, it's going to come out differently.
That's right.
And so that's where the trick is. Okay. Yeah. If you have one room, one, hero shot that you're trying to render for that space, this is the perfect, example that you can do for that. And, when you're showing a client, if you're early on in the design phase and you're still trying to figure out the materiality and the client's hesitating about something, this is an amazing tool to be able to say, I know that you're saying that you want really dark, moody room, but here's the lighter version that we had talked about that you were kind of hesitant on. I'm going to show you both visuals, which took me 10 minutes, and allow them to kind of make that executive decision that they feel confident in to move forward, and everyone can agree on it and be like, okay, this looks good. We agree. Let's proceed forward.
Exactly.
And it takes the guesswork out of it,
Yeah, that is the value of rendering. And in many conversations I've had with Duke and their team, and then designers who use it, even Shay McGee was here a couple of weeks ago talking about how she uses Duke Renders because, you just get the yes. Like, it's like I can tell you all day what I don't like, but when I see what I like, we write checks, right? It's like,
Well, and it's complete.
Yes. So that's interesting. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. So here's the thing. This is a lot, right? Like, this is a lot. Like it's like anything else. It's a lot, but it doesn't get easier if you don't just jump in. Right. You've got to just, anything that you do. It's like the first day you took a golf lesson, the first day you tried piano, like you can't even imagine that you can do this. And then all of a sudden 1 week and the next week and blah, blah, blah. But I'm a big proponent of teachers, of people who know more than me, to just get me past the part that, like, do I really have to reinvent every mistake that ever happened in learning how to play the piano or how to use AI, right? So what is your services for your colleagues that you offer in this lane of AI, you guys?
Yeah. Well, we offer a lot of different things, whether it's a whole team that, we have the principal and they're like, how do I not only learn this for myself, but also get my team trained up on this? This seems overwhelming to me. We don't have the time. We don't have, the resources to be able to do this.
Right.
What do we do? So that's kind of where we come in. And that's probably one of the bigger things that we do, in the course of our month to month process of things, is really actually onboarding teams with AI and AI tools. So whether that be ChatGPT, Prom AI, which we just talked about, Midjourney, other tools for AI. And I mean, we're just scratching the surface here. We talk about a lot of tools with the designers that we work with. And our goal is to really figure out where in the process we can come in with AI tools and help them, expedite things, make, the client experience better, make the employee experience better, all of that.
Yeah.
And we, it's like a heavy onboarding form in the beginning. And it's like, where are your pain points? Like, where do you spend time that you don't want to spend time? Where can AI help you? And so that's what we try and figure out and really work on whenever we're actually onboarding these teams. And so that's one portion. Another portion that we have is a community group that we've got for AI. And this is really great because it's designers all across the country. And I post daily updates on there. I post video tutorials, always keeping them in the know. We do a monthly coaching call where everyone hops on, asks questions. We dive into the latest and greatest of, what's happened in the last month, and we go through tutorials. And it's just a great community to be able to keep your learning going, especially for those teams that we've onboarded, because
sure. Now
AI
they're using it, they have a question.
Quickly.
Yes, and it changes, right? Exactly.
Absolutely. And so it's like, well, you're not going to look at an outdated manual for something if you're trying to get, the latest and greatest update, up-to-date information. And so we're there to keep them informed, keep them in the know, what's happening in the industry, what's happening, with AI in general, so they can speak to these things, and then also give them the tools to be able to say, this is how you use them, and this is how you can implement them within your firm. So whether that be a custom GPT we've created, we share it with a team, whatever the case may be, like it's really the community to be able to help each other in this process together. And a lot of them are business owners. And so they can, reach out and say, hey, is anyone doing it, using AI for this process? I'd love to be able to figure out a way that we can do that. Yeah. So those are, kind of two of the ways that we're helping designers quite a bit. And then we're also working on kind of a whole nother arm right now of building out actual automations for designers. Wow. So if you think about like processes within the design firm that are just tedious and task oriented and no one wants to do them. And, you're paying these employees a lot of money to do things that really automations can fix and can do. So like an onboarding process or whatever, like that's what we are working on right now. So that'll
cool.
Yeah. And that'll be a mixture of like AI agents, actual automations and automating tasks and, and actual processes.
There's a guy in AI that I listened to his podcast. I think he's going to come on the show. God help me. It's crazy. And Michael Koenigs, and he is at the point where I haven't purchased any of them. I haven't even looked into any of them, but I hear it on the show. Like, he has created those agents with those workflows for like writing a book, say, or doing a podcast, say, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And it's like literally every little step that you need to do. It's like, you can work it through and do what you want, or you can load this in and just the thing walks you through what you're doing. So that's awesome that you're going to create that for the design industry.
Yeah, that's crazy. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, every firm is different, but we obviously are firm owners. We know the pain points. We know, the holdups throughout the design process. And so it's really easy for us to be able to say, we're always looking at it from the standpoint of like, what's a broken process? How can we make it better? How can we fix it? Like, how can we fix it is probably one of those things that we say all the time to each other. Well, how can we fix that? What can we do to make it better? Yeah. So
that's interesting. Like I said, I haven't purchased any of them. My brain is like, so it's like, I don't know how effective they are, but I bet they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's like having a manual, right? It's like, remember we used to get the Cliff Notes back in the day or whatever the heck it was called, or what it reminds me of too is when you guys are probably too young. I mean, of it, but I remember when they came on the scene, the XYZ for Dummies books. It was like accounting for dummies, like real estate for dummies, gardening for dummies. It's like, here it is, just do the thing, start with page 1. And at the end of it, you will have done the thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. The cool thing about life is, and humans are, that I don't think I've ever read any of the books for dummies where like by chapter 2, I was like, okay, this dummy is just going to hire a pro to do the thing for me. like there's just enough of us out here that are like, never mind. I just don't want to do this for myself. Yeah. I would rather pay you to teach me or pay you to show me or pay you to do. Right. Yep. So we're never, the books for dummies didn't replace the humans and the AI special agents and GPTs are not going to replace the humans either, right?
Mhm.
Because there's a certain level that in me as a person, you Jess, you Steph as a person, we're going to pick different things that we'll trudge through on our own to learn and different things that we will hire an expert for. We will
Sure.
all three have our tolerance level, and it's not going to be the same. But I don't think there's anything that any of us would say, I will teach myself that whole thing always, every time, right?
Yeah.
There's just times where like, do it for me,
Yeah.
sweetie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome. This has been great. How do they reach you? Tell us about your podcast, how they reach you, how they find you, how they do the things.
Steph's usually the one to jump in here. All right. So our website is aiforinteriors.com. That's got, anything contact related wise to get in touch with us. Also Instagram, AI for Interiors. And our podcast is also AI for Interiors. That's on
Good
Spotify,
branding, ladies.
Yep, Apple, whatever platform you're on, we're probably on for our podcast. And we would love for anyone to reach out if they're interested in learning about AI. Something sparked their interest today that they want to learn more about. I would love to hear from them. So, and my email personally is jessica@aiforinteriors.com. So feel free to reach out to me as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much. You guys are really, you're great humans. You're a lot of fun. And, this body of knowledge, it's like you and Jenna, somebody's got to lead the way in teaching us this stuff, right? And so I'm so glad that you're doing the heavy lifting so that we can just do little shovelfuls at a time. So thank you, ladies.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, LuAnn.
Okay, you know me. I love it when my guests come in here and they don't just talk about big, lofty ideas, but they actually give us some nitty gritty on how to do the thing that they're here to talk about. And that's just what happened today. And I love it. So Jessica and Stephanie gave us a clear window into what AI could look like in your interior design business. Let's pull out a few things. All right. First of all, they said start small, not about overhauling your business. And I loved it when they said just pick one tool and apply it to a pain point. And here's the thing. That second part of the sentence, that's the magic part. Pick one tool, that's fine. But if you pick one tool and you want to pick a tool and you're like, I've always wanted to do this in my business, where's your mojo for really sticking through the learning curve? But if you do what they said and pick something that's already a pain point, something that's clogging your process, something that keeps happening over and over again in your projects, that's not a good thing. When you pick a pain point to solve, you'll have a little more juice for walking through and learning a new thing to see if it can solve it for you. All right, so that's the first step. Because we often get paralyzed when we think about adopting a new system because it means reinventing everything. But if we're pairing that with something that's already torturing us, well, it just does give us more gas for it, doesn't it? So I love that advice. The next thing that they talked about was the communication, and this kind of blew me away. Jessica and Stephanie are using AI to analyze personality types from the data that they have from their clients, their team members, and from each other. And I have to say, I've been in business a long time, and I can tell you that your success, yes, you need to be talented, you, but that's not where it comes from. Your success is going to come on your business acumen, and a huge part of your business acumen is how you communicate, how well you understand people, how well you listen to people, how well you can deliver on the information that you need to express, and how well you can set expectations, right? If you are one of my chairman of the boards listening, we spend hours every single year talking about the exact choice of words for an email, the exact choice of words for a conversation, because communication is a critical business skill. And I mentioned in the conversation with the girls, the episode with Sharon Sherman. Go back and listen to it. Episode 892, we'll link it in the show notes. Sharon breaks down the different personality types and gives you some tips for navigating those conversations in the style that will be received by the person. Okay? I mean, think about it. You don't talk to your 4-year-old the same way you talk to your 15-year-old, the same way you talk to your spouse, right? And why is that? because they each need a different communication style in order to digest and in order to get what you're saying. No different than your clients, your team members, your colleagues, your vendors, your trades. So I love, love, love this suggestion. Now, we also have to talk about that budget calculator, because if there's one thing I know that is a huge struggle in this industry, it's talking about money. But the truth is, when you don't talk about the numbers honestly from the start, the problems always find you later. When you avoid it at the beginning, it bites you in the booty, in the middle, and the end. I promise you, okay? And what Stephanie and Jessica have built takes the emotion out of it. It gives them data, it gives them clarity, and it lets them walk into those conversations with confidence. And that is worth everything, my friend. Recently, both Beth Diana Smith and Anastasia Harrison were each guest speakers at different WindowWorks Lunch and Learns over spring of 2025. Both of these #smart ladies shared their insights on how they structure their fees, and it was an eye-opener to so many of us there in the room. WindowWorks has the recordings of these, which you will find in the link in our show notes as well. These are both super helpful Lunch and Learns resources if you struggle with pricing or you're trying to go from hourly to project-based like discussed today. And if you are in the New York, New Jersey metro area, please follow WindowWorks on Instagram. Better yet, just go get on the email list so when you know when the next Lunch and Learn is. Okay, we will put all of the links in the show notes. They're fabulous, fabulous learning opportunities. Now, Jessica and Stephanie are also using AI rendering tools to help clients see options side by side early in the process. And as I said during the episode, AI can give you a nice quick visualization, but I gotta tell you, it's not gonna replace the photorealistic 3D quality of something like Duke Renders. Just gotta say. And please go check out dukerenders.com/LuAnn. Prove it to yourself. Right? Now, I also want to connect this episode to an episode that I did recently with Jenna Gadusic. That's episode 1110. We will link it in the show notes. In that conversation, Jenna and I focused a lot on the why, like why you shouldn't be afraid of AI, why ethics matter, and why this is something that you need to at least understand. Now, today, Jessica and Stephanie have taken the conversation a little further down the road and gave us some hows, okay? So between the two episodes, you've got some philosophy and some practice. And together, they start to paint this picture of what AI could do for you. One caveat, remember, it is moving at the speed of light, my friends. It sure is, okay? So here's another thing that I want to make sure that you hear today. Tools are tools. They are just tools. AI is not a magic bullet that will solve everything. What matters is how you, as the human, as the business owner, use it. Jessica and Stephanie aren't successful with AI because they're tech geniuses. They're successful because they're curious. They're willing to experiment, to tinker, to try something new. And that is the core lesson here. You don't have to know everything. You just have to be willing to start. All right? So, challenge for you. Pick one thing from today's episode. Maybe it's trying a custom GPT to streamline a task. Maybe it's using AI to analyze your client notes before you write the next email. Maybe it's exploring a budget calculator to give you better guardrails on your pricing. Whatever it is, try it. See what happens. That's how you learn. And if you're ready for more and you're thinking, okay, I want someone to guide me through this, then Jessica and Stephanie have created exactly what you need. Their platform, AI for Interiors, was built specifically for you. They offer team onboarding, hands-on training, and a thriving community where you can keep learning as the technology evolves. It's the place where you can stay current, ask questions, get practical, real-world support. So go check it out and join the group. You won't regret it. And once you start freeing your hours up in your week with AI, a little bit of advice, maybe you invest that time where it matters with your business and personal growth. LuAnn University is where you get the systems, the strategies, and real-world training to lead, price, and scale your interior design firm like a boss. These are live classes taught by experts who actually do the work. No fluff, no filler. Don't wait. Go check out the lineup at LuAnnUniversity.com to see when the next semester will be opening. All right. The link for Jessica and Stephanie's group will also be in the show notes. Thank you, Jess and Stephanie, for joining me today. And thank you for listening. I'm so grateful that you choose to spend your time with me. I never take it for granted. If this episode sparked an idea or you think it could help a friend or a colleague, I sure hope you'd share it with them. Thanks so much. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.